Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about my writing process. Now there are hundreds, probably thousands of different ways to go about writing. This is what works for me currently, even though it's always evolving. The important part, just start writing. So for me personally, I like to pre-write out my thoughts. I will get pen and paper and literally just take 10-minute sessions where I do not lift my pen up from the paper and just write. Usually I'm thinking about my character or maybe a particular scene that came to my mind that I wanted to flesh out and prepare for the book. From there, I try to do an outline. Now with Before Dishonor, my first book in the trilogy, I didn't outline. I was a pantser 100% of the time in that book. But most of the time since then, I will plot out where I want my characters to go, you know, the rise and falls of each arc of the book, compare that to my Excel doc that has my timelines, my characters, and then also match that up with my murder board, which again, one day you will meet her. But I want to make sure those timelines match. I don't want to have somebody come back and say, you started talking about September 2024, but then you never wrapped that up, or you jumped 7 years in the future, or back, you did a flashback. What happened in between? So I want to make sure that those timelines are smooth. One thing I did learn for me personally is I do not like writing in flashbacks. If I'm going to write the story, I try to write it from the very beginning of when a flashback might occur, and then just move forward from there. For consistency, it works for me. People that do write the flashbacks, I love them. Sometimes I get a little confused by them, but it's whatever works best for you. I, from there, create my first draft, putting all my thoughts into a computer in a Word doc. I used Scrivener, I don't know how you say it. I used that for the trilogy. It got a little clunky after I wrote the trilogy, so I moved to Dabble, which was created by writers for writers. So I prefer to use Dabble. This is not an ad. This is just a fact for me. From there, I write the first draft, and it will not be pretty. It will be random thoughts on paper, essentially, that I try to string together with some sort of, I don't know, storyline, and get that to my alpha readers. It is definitely not the full story, because when it goes through my alpha readers, they usually find plot holes or maybe a thought process that I started and then I moved on to another thought in between that I didn't catch when I reread it, which does happen, and they will make a note for me and say, Madeline, you forgot to wrap this up or whatever. So yes, I give it to my alphas, they read them, the book, they give it back to me, we talk about it. A lot of the times I use their ideas because I like the fresh perspective of what they're giving me. Sometimes we may or may not agree on their thoughts, but I always save their notes because it's something I can go back on later and say, you know what, they were right. Like, I really like that thought. I really like that idea, but how can I use it over here instead of maybe in the chapter that they recommended it in? So anyways, I keep everything. I keep all my notes from everybody. So after I review my feedback, I write another draft. From here, it might be drafts 2 through 6 that I've written. I try to expand quite a bit from the first draft. So the first draft may have, I don't know, 30 to 40,000 words. After reviewing my alpha information, I will expand that to the full length of the book at that point. Consider it a beefier outline by the time the alphas get it. Again, that's what works for me. Some people will write 150,000 words on their first draft, and that is what they want to do, and that is great. Go you. That's just not what works for me. From there, I take that draft, whatever number it is, and I send it to my beta readers. I have a handful of lovely people that love to read crime fiction, and they will dive into this book, whatever book I give them, and send me feedback. I actually have a worksheet that I can link in the comments that I personally use, but it's just a Q&A essentially as they're reading, things for them to think about. You know, did this make sense? Did you relate to this character? Is there a character that you absolutely despise and why? You know, and maybe that's what I'm going for. Maybe I want you to hate them. So I want to make sure that you're getting that feeling across when I'm writing it. They will send me their feedback. I read it, review it, and then I make my updates again. So see, there's a lot of updating that goes on when you're a writer. I do edits along the way. I'm human, so I'm gonna miss a lot. And it just happens. Get a good editor. Get a very good editor. After I review their feedback, again, I do more drafts and proofread everything that I've written to this point. I probably reread my own work, I don't even know, 20, 30 times. I'm sure it's more than that, to the point where I get sick of reading my writing, but it is important. And sometimes, because I read it so often, I will overlook the smallest detail that maybe needs to be updated or fixed or corrected. So again, hire a very skilled, knowledgeable editor. Usually around this time frame, after betas have read it and I've done my rereads of their suggestions, my updates, proofreading, so on, I need a break. So I will talk to my cover designer and we will discuss my thoughts, what I envision for the cover. And then she is amazing. Her name is Shay. Book Designs by Shay is what she goes by on Instagram. She's phenomenal. She's very quick. I will give her the most random word vomit of my idea and she will create this incredible cover. Death Before Dishonor, that was the first cover she sent back, and she, I think, maybe spent 5 minutes listening to me ramble on, and she sent me this back. It was great. This one is also a favorite, Xander. This is a novella for the trilogy. You can read it beforehand. It's Xander at a younger age, or you can read it after, whatever. It's just more of Xander. People love Xander and they wanted to hear more about him, so I made a novella of him. But that gives my mind a break. Usually when I'm talking to her, I'll still think of something. I'm like, ooh, I should have added that in the book, or ooh, this would make a really good scene. So it's a creative outlet in a different aspect for me. And that's why I like doing it at this particular point in my writing process. Once I get the cover back, I've done all of the gone through all the critiquing, I will submit my latest draft at this point to my editor. My editor is a part of my publishing group. My publishing group is Raw Riot Publishing. So they are a very small indie publishing company that, again, started by writers for writers to give us the option to have our books published with a very professional editing, cover design, everything. They just, from start to finish, they're complete pros, and I love working with them. So I send it off to them. It goes through several eyes in editing, and they will send me back their comments, their suggestions, and from there I will coordinate with the publisher what I think is going to be my release date. They're very hands-off when it comes to that portion. They leave it up to the writer, the author. It's our project, so they want to make sure that we're ready to publish it, but they set up all of our files before it's released. That is when I send it to my ARC team. Right now I have very small alpha, beta, and ARC teams. Down the road, I would like to expand some of those teams, definitely my ARC team and my street team. But right now I like having a very small alpha, beta team. Teams, plural. At this point, when the ARCs get a copy of the book, it should be essentially ready for publishing. I'm hoping they find 0 errors, but I do ask for them to watch for flow as far as the way the book flows. When they're reading it, does it make sense? Were there any plot drops? There better not be at this point because a lot of eyes have been on it and somebody should have caught it at this point. Mainly me, but here we are. They'll get to see the cover when they read the ARC the way I have it delivered. Sometimes use BookFunnel, sometimes I will deliver them to them directly through another app. Not going to mention it because I'm not 100% sure I'm sold on it. This is the first group past alpha and beta that get to see my book baby before everybody else. And the only requirement is that they share feedback. If they love the book, which you always hope they do, but if they love the book, I ask them to leave a review on Goodreads and Amazon prior to the release date. Now, Amazon is tricky. You can't leave a review before the release date. You can on Goodreads. So it's whatever. Usually I ask them, or I'll send a reminder to the group after the publishing date to go ahead and go out to Amazon and just copy paste their Goodreads review and put it on Amazon for me. Simple as that. While ARCs are reading, hopefully, I will do a cover reveal on my platforms. I primarily use Instagram, as YouTube is newer to me, but I will more than likely do a cover reveal on YouTube as well. My street team, who is fantastic, again, I keep a very small street team. Eventually I will expand that, but they get to see everything. They get to see everything before everybody else. They get to help me pick names sometimes of the characters, or maybe the town. I want to make a made-up name, but I want it to be similar to a town that maybe they relate to or remember. My trilogy was in an actual town. It was in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. My series that I'm writing is in a made-up town, which is Fawson, Washington. That's for another day, why I did that. But so at this point, the street team gets to see the cover, they get to see the blurb, and then they help me spread the word on my social media platforms to bring attention and awareness that there is a new book that myself, Madeline Vaughn, is going to be releasing, and try to drive attention to Goodreads for people to want to read it and then pre-order, hopefully on Amazon or from my website. While all of that is going on in the background, I'm also working with my editors to get the final version. As I said, they get everything ready for KDP. So at this point, they're sending me back the files that I need for the interior of the book, the cover, everything that I need to upload to get them on Amazon's platform. They're very quick. Prewrite Publishing, again, I will leave their information in the comments below, but they are so fast at what they do and just 100% attention to detail. They love them. Finally, we're at release day. Finally is here. I get to release my book out into the world, and all the wonderful people that have been there to support me through the very beginning of writing and reading and critiquing and proofreading and editing and every little bit along the way have gotten us to this point. And I say us because it is a team effort. I don't do this by myself. I don't want you to ever think I do this by myself, because that isn't realistic for me. But we do a big promo on Instagram. I try to loop in a lot of friends and followers that have been following me along throughout this entire writing journey, and create a chat on Instagram to give them options of different pictures that I've maybe created via Canva, which that is also a discussion for another day. But we will pick a different set of pictures, or maybe I'll give like a trope outline of what the book entails, the blurb, and then how to find it. And then we set the time, we set the day, and then we do a blast. And that is it. That is my writing process in a nutshell. If you are a writer, leave a comment on if you use KDP. If you don't use KDP, who do you use? I used Ingram for a while, but I have stepped away from them. I would love to hear more about your process. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you get updates anytime I upload a new video. Thank you.